So coming into a supine position, where the soles of the feet are pressing down, knees rest against one another, the back rests heavily into the floor. Relax down your forehead. Allow your eyelids to be heavy. Allow your cheeks to be soft. The lips stay together, but the jaw gently parts, allowing the bottom jaw to relax heavily away from the top jaw. Observe the colour that you can see behind your eyelids. Observe the slowness of breath. Observe the sound of your breath. Observe the fullness of your breath. Observe how the breath fills your body, from the top two corners of your shoulders, all the way down to the base two corners of your pelvis. It's normal for the mind to wander. We allow ourselves to simply observe where it wanders to, but rather than engaging with the thought or with the conversation, we allow it to exist in our experience in stillness instead. Allowing the thought itself to be still, allowing ourselves to be still, meaning that we're not interacting with the thought, we're not adding to it or pulling it in for further conversation, but we're also not rejecting it and pushing it away. We just allow it to exist. When you feel ready, you allow your awareness to gently travel back to the physical, the present moment breath. The rise and fall of the belly, of the chest. The relaxation of every muscle in the body. When you're feeling ready, we're going to walk our feet closer together and then allow the knees to fall wide. So we're coming into our supine butterfly. Now this might initially feel a little bit too intense. If that is the case, we can place blocks, blankets, pillows, whatever we need under the upper outer thighs, around here. This will mean that when you drop your knees wide, rather than falling past your comfortable range of motion, you stay within it. We do want to completely relax the target area and as much of the rest of the body as we can. This would mean relaxing every muscle from the belly button down to the toes. And then if you do feel comfortable to relax down the rest of the body, say the arms, the back of the torso, the front of the torso, the neck and the head, then we do so. It's normal to initially feel a bit of resistance physically. And I find that going through the body within your mind's eye can be really helpful for allowing yourself just to pinpoint areas of resistance where our body is rejecting gravity, resisting the pose. And you might notice that as you pinpoint them and allow them to relax into the pose, that any intensity of stretch that you feel gently dissipates as you relax down. As we release and relax the muscles, the tension disappears. As we surrender rather than resist, it becomes more comfortable. And the same is thought to be said for the mind. We're not resisting thoughts, we're not rejecting them either, but we're also not pulling them in and interacting and engaging with them. We just accept them and allow them to exist. We surrender that control of conversation and we just allow thoughts to arrive, and we are just the silent observer, also known as consciousness or awareness, separate from the ego, the identity, separate from the need to do anything at all, and just completely entering into that state of being instead. When you're feeling ready, slowly heel toe your feet wide and then allow the knees to fall against one another. The feet can be as wide as the mat or a little bit narrower if that feels right for you. They can be as close or as far from the pelvis as you like. It's really normal for the mind to wander here. Give yourself permission to just observe where it's wandered to. Wherever you catch yourself in that moment, no matter how deep in conversation, we just send complete acceptance towards that. When you're feeling ready, we're going to come into our next movement. Stepping your sole of the right foot into center, and then drawing your left foot up towards the sky. We're going to start off by just interlacing behind the back of the left thigh and allowing a complete switching off here. The left leg is disengaged all the way up to the pelvis. You might also feel comfortable to extend that right leg long. If this feels very comfortable, then you could transfer your interlace up to the calf. The arms are a yang force here, whilst the leg is completely yin. The leg completely melts down into the pose. Now the area where we'll feel this the most is likely to be the hamstring. But as we soften through the muscles, you'll notice that it goes a little bit deeper. You begin to feel that gentle compression in the pelvis, through the front of the hip. As we melt past the flexibility of the muscles, we go deeper into the range of motion of the yin tissues, these deeper tissues. What started off as quite a hamstring focus should often completely dissipate until you no longer feel it in the hamstring muscle, even though you're at the same depth. You might even notice yourself physically melting deeper. Allow yourself to ensure that you are breathing fully. This helps nourish the body. You'll notice that if you do begin to hold your breath, the intensity that you feel will begin to increase. Similarly to how, if we begin to tense the muscles, switch on that stretch response and resist the pose, the intensity again begins to rise. It can be quite difficult to keep yang energies such as the arms and yin energies such as the legs side by side without beginning to let that tension travel down into the lower body, or without beginning to relax the arms more and more. So just allow yourself to keep your awareness with the body, with the breath being slow, with the body being completely relaxed and engaged simultaneously. When you're feeling ready, rather than going into a counter pose, we're going to deepen into half happy baby. So we allow that leg to fall out towards the left side a little bit. The knee eases towards the left armpit. We're going to transfer our left hand up to the outer left foot, or if it feels more correct for you, you could take a belt maybe and hook that biggest foot with the belt. You could hook the biggest toe with the index finger and thumb. And if both feel far too intense, then you could just interlace behind the back of the thigh, although it might be hard to keep that leg in place. Once we've found our perfect variation of this pose, we begin to soften down. If it feels too intense on that right inner hip, then draw that leg into a bend. Listen to what feels right for you. Switching off the stretch response can feel quite counterintuitive, because that's what we do in day-to-day life. When we have an impactful movement, a fast movement, it's brilliant that the muscles are trained to switch on and protect these deep areas of the body, which don't respond well to impact. But we do still need to move them and use them in a way that they enjoy, which is why we take these long, still holds We allow gravity, the weight of the body, the hard ground to come together to make your perfect version of these poses. But we're not just benefiting the physical body here. Although we do feel an extra strength and length in these deep tissues when we practice yin, we increase the lubrication in these areas, the elasticity in these areas. Also improving range of motion and flexibility as a secondary effect. But we're also working with other parts of ourselves. We work with the energy body, we work with the emotional body, we work with the mind, and we're benefiting all of these parts of ourselves equally. When you're ready, send your left leg long and allow the legs just to relax down next to one another. So you might draw them in an extended position, or you might keep them bent, whatever feels right for your body. I would normally recommend extended, but it might be too soon for your hip flexors. We just relax down as heavily as we were before. Allowing the muscles to completely switch off. When we say that we're working with the energy body in yin practice, it doesn't just mean that we're bringing that yin-like essence into our day, into the forefront of the picture, and allowing that balance of yin and yang. But it's talking also about that energetic prana that runs through your body. There is a belief in traditional Chinese medicine theory that meridians or ley lines roll through your body in different channels, different patterns, and each relate to a different emotion, a different internal organ. It's thought that there are 6 on the lower body and 6 in the upper body. And that in each person, the map generally relates to one another. So when we take a position such as half-happy baby, most people will be targeting the stomach and spleen meridians through the front hips, which relate to feelings of safety and contentment and joy. And when you're ready, gently slide the right leg up towards you. We're going to extend that leg long, and it will start off feeling really intense. Whereas on the other pose, you might have found that the leg ended around here. We probably will start off much further away. But it doesn't matter at all about the aesthetics of our pose in yin. It's all about how it feels. We never have to fit a certain version of a pose. Rather, the pose works around our individual body. So, from here, you might just relax heavily through the legs, the upper body, and the arms if we're in this position. Or you might trace the arms up towards the up towards the calf, and allow a little bit more of a relaxation through the leg, yet a bit more activation through the arms. When the arms are a bit lower, they can switch off a bit more. The interlace tends to hold even when the arms are relaxed. So do what feels right for you here. Both have benefit. When we're in this, where the whole body can relax down a bit more, it's easier for our essence to travel into that more yin-like state a bit more easily. And when we're in this deeper pose, we're going a bit deeper into the yin tissues, which in turn can release more tension. For as long as we are melted down and heavy, it's thought that, similarly to how the muscles hold tension, and how we can hold on to attachments and emotions within our physical body, it's thought that the deeper you go, the longer held or deeper these emotions may be. So it's normal for your mind to wander quite far back in yin to quite random places. We allow ourselves, no matter how heavy or attached thoughts that arrive in our head may be, we just allow them to exist. Similarly to any shifts in the emotional body, even if we can't pinpoint or place why they've arrived, we just allow them to exist in our present moment. We don't label good or bad, right or wrong. There is no perfect way to be when we practice yin. As long as you're existing in the present moment, accepting what arises without judgment, without pushing away or pulling in, without doing anything at all, essentially, then we're practicing yin perfectly. Accepting ourselves wherever we're at today. The more we relax down the muscles, the deeper we begin to feel. You begin to feel the sensations more in the joints, or in these deep yin tissues. It's thought that when we hold tension within the mind, we can store that within our body and become physically tense. When we're anxious, the body can become jittery. When we're sad, the body can move slower. All these little things within the mind can massively affect the physical body, and it's thought that the same can be true in reverse. For example, if we're hungry, it can make the mind agitated. When we're physically sleepy or hurt, it can change our mental state too. So what we're doing in yin is taking what we understand about the interconnectedness of the mind and the body, and whilst we can't tell the mind to be relaxed and accept it to just follow suit, we can allow the body to be relaxed and trust that in time the mind will follow suit. We relax the body by softening the muscles and slowing the breath and allowing as much stillness as we can, knowing that that stillness will translate into the mind eventually. Whereas the thoughts might start off very quick firing, they begin to slow and become a little bit stiller, a little bit slower, a little bit more singular. When you're ready, we deepen into our half-happy baby. Take your time in making your way there. We can take the outer right foot the biggest right toe, we allow that right knee to fall into the right armpit. We place no pressure on when we will arrive in that yin-like state within our emotional body, within our mind, within our energy body. Similarly to how if we have a really busy day, we can come home and be very wired, very alert, both in the mind and the body, and then we gradually begin to slow and calm. We adapt to our state. So the same can be said for yin. At the start, the stillness and the slowness of the movement, the silence around us in yin can feel really uncomfortable, especially if the mind is in that yang-like state. We can resist that change, and that resistance alone to change is often a big source of discomfort. So we just allow ourselves to feel that discomfort, but without adding to it. We don't push it away, we don't pull it in, we just allow it to be there. There is no right or wrong way to be, as long as we're staying in that state of being, rather than doing. And this alone means that eventually, in time, you'll sink more and more into that state of being, into that yin-like state with each and every part of yourself. We don't need to purposefully try to reach for compassion, for allowing and acceptance, as these are your natural state. We're here for one more breath before we drop that leg down, and then if you feel comfortable to send it long straight away, then we do. And then we soften down as much as we can through the muscles. These counter poses, where we just allow the heaviness, a complete switching off, these are thought to be the moments in which the body is benefiting, or the energy body is benefiting the most from our poses. In the poses themselves, we are using compression, stimulation, deep stretching to encourage that flow or to block that flow. And then when we come into our counter pose, where we just allow the limbs to be straight, we allow the area that we've targeted to be open and free flowing. Then that prana can flow freely with a surge, with the notion that any blockages, any areas of stagnancy, any areas that were previously so tense physically that it was blocking that natural flow of energy, are more open, more free, and we can feel that surge of well-being throughout the hips, throughout the legs, all the way up into the torso. The more you practice yin, the more you can begin to tap into these more subtle movements. So you might feel the blood flow, the heartbeat, but you can often feel these slightly subtler, more energetic movements. Take as long as you need here. And then when you're feeling ready, we're going to come into our next movement. So we have two options for this next movement. Option one is coming onto your front, like so, letting your head down onto your left forearm, and then bending your right leg, like so. Nice and simple. Option two, we take a pillow, like so. We take our left leg into a bend, and we take our right leg into a bend, but place the sole of the foot down. Your left foot could be out to the side or directly underneath the hip, whatever feels right for you. And you then lay down onto the bolster, like so. So again, that foot can be directly under or out to the side. You could also send that right leg long if that feels right for you. So either way, we're going to be targeting that pelvis, the front of the thigh. There is no right or wrong here, so do what feels right for you. If we are laying on our front and we can't quite reach the foot, then you can use a belt to pull it in towards you. Allow yourself to rest here. We're only here for 2 minutes, which isn't as long as many of our yin poses. We don't need too long in this pose to feel the full benefits. Many poses where the full body can completely relax down allow you to a little bit more easily sink into that state of non-doing. When we practice yin regularly, it's thought that we can just be undoing tensions of the week just gone. Therefore, it becomes a little bit more easy to relax into a pose because we don't have as much tension built up over a long period of time. So if we're quite new to a certain pose, for example, and it feels very intense and that intensity remains longer than some other poses, that's absolutely fine. As long as it feels comfortable for you, free from pain, then that's absolutely fine. Comfortable in yin is slightly different to comfortable anywhere else. It doesn't have to be enjoyable, it can still be intense, but it still feels right for you. You intuitively know that it's correct for your body and that you haven't surpassed your edge. When you're feeling ready, we're going to swap sides. So if we're on our front, we gently draw the left leg long, draw the right leg up. If we're on our back, then we draw the right leg into a bend. You could keep that left leg bent and then draw back onto the bolster, like so. Or you could send that left leg long. Relax down when you're feeling ready. Breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your nose. your mind begins to wander, just observe where it wanders to. We allow ourselves to observe in stillness. We're here for 3 more breath cycles, allowing slow breaths in and out. When you're feeling ready, as slowly as you can, making your way up, we're going to come into our wide-legged hero, but rather than facing lengthways on the mat, we guide widthways. We grab elbows there, and the reason we draw the legs widthways is so that we can draw the knees as wide as we like. You could also place a blanket underneath your knees if we need a bit of extra softness. You could also throw a blanket over your body for a little bit extra relaxation. So this is the last pose before Savasana. So knees draw as wide as you physically feel comfortable to. You then relax down like so. When we have the knees wide, yet the big toes together, the knees coming forwards rather than at that bird's eye angle, sort of horizontally out to the side, then it allows us to do this deep hip opening while still completely relaxed, still completely relaxing the body down onto the floor, onto the bolster. We allow ourselves to trust in the pose. When you're feeling ready, as slowly as you can, Making your way up. And if you can, we're going to plant the bolster at the end of your mat. We're going to throw the blanket over either the whole body or the legs. And the legs over the bolster. This can really help with just relaxing down the nervous system, like so. Allow that complete switching off when you're ready. For the final time today, each evening when we fall asleep, the body can completely switch off and relax. However, the mind is still hard at work, undoing complex emotions, problem solving. So we allow ourselves in meditation and throughout our yin yoga practice for the mind to be rested and still. This doesn't mean that the mind has to be void of thought to be practicing yin perfectly. It just means that the brain is not responding to anything that does enter into our current moment experience. This means thoughts can arise, energies can shift, emotions can occur, but we just observe in stillness. We allow ourselves to be consciousness, awareness, yet we allow the ego and the identity, which can often take the driver's seat in day-to-day interactions and life, just to gently take the back seat. We allow those parts of ourselves to rest. If we notice them begin to chip into conversation, we just become aware of that instead, before shifting back to our next present moment. Often once I've observed a thought, when it's existed in stillness, in the present moment, I usually gently shift my awareness back to the physical, such as the breath or the sensations I can feel. Because even though observing the thought is just as much observing the present as observing those physical things, it's slightly easier to not respond to the physical. The rhythmic breath can usually allow the mind to settle. It can usually remind us to take those full and complete breaths. And that breath can usually draw our awareness towards the tummy, towards the nose. Our awareness can shift from there to the sensations that we feel. Both those larger physical movements, but also those lovely subtle energy movements, which can feel like tingles through the spine, but throughout each area of the body. Place no pressure on yourself to be a certain way. We allow ourselves to continually stay in that state of being rather than doing. However we're at in the present, whether we feel calm or not, relaxed or not, sleepy or not, we place no pressure on ourselves to be a certain way other than accepting exactly as we are in the present. We allow our awareness to stay with the breath and the body. When thoughts arise, we allow our awareness to settle before gently guiding back to present, towards the physical and towards the breath. We're here for one more minute practicing this, and we're going to be completely silent as we do so. When you're feeling ready, as slowly as you can, allow your awareness to settle on the toes and the fingertips as you gently bring movement into them, on the wrists and the ankles, the elbows and the knees, as you gently hug them up in towards your body. We roll onto one side when you're feeling ready, and you're all done. Namaste.